Everybody just blowing smoke on how much quality is improved? We'll demonstrate why people are keeping their cars so long. The average age of the fleet today, the average age of all the cars, I know you got stuck on Spear Boulevard. The average age of every other car you were meeting, you too? The average age of the fleet is now the oldest in history. It is 12.4 years. As recently as 1995, 20 years ago, the average age of the fleet was only 8.4 years. So over the course of the last 20 years, the average age of the fleet has increased by about 50%. So why do people keep their cars so long? So you were asked, what was the first car you ever bought? And think about this. Get a mental image of the first car you ever bought when you were growing up, or your parents bought when you were growing up. The first time you experienced in your family as ownership that new car smell. Get a thought of that car. Get the mental image of that car. Now think back, that car, how long you anticipated keeping it, and how many miles you anticipated putting on it. Now I was lucky enough, I was able to buy a new car while I was still in high school. I had a little help from my parents. It was a 1972 Ford. But at that time, and by the way, that car I was able to buy, it was a Pinto, by the way. And I survived, so. But at that time, you could buy a brand new car for $1,995.
So if people are keeping cars for a longer period of time, have you done the analysis to determine why people are buying more new?
Well, they have to be replaced after a while. I mean, they'll last longer, but they won't last forever. And we're going to come back around to that. But the culture has changed, though, to where people keep their cars a lot longer. And instead of trading them in, they'll pass them, and today, by the way, at that time, in 1972, the culture was to trade your car every 2 or 3 years, or every 30 or 40,000 miles. And oh, by the way, if you had a car at that time, even in the 80s or 90s, if you had a car with 100,000 miles, it was deemed of very little value to gift to a friend or relative or to trade into a dealer. A consumer today can have a reasonable expectation that your next new car, if you want to keep it 10 or 12 years or drive it 250 or 300,000 miles, you can. And we'd rather you not do that. Why do people keep their cars so long? It's a 3-word answer. A little audience participation. 3-word answer.
Right.
Somebody got it over here.
Because you can.
Because you can. Because they can. Okay, it's much better quality. They're much safer. Even though this news story was out just in the last 6 weeks, 2014 had a record amount of vehicle miles traveled, an all-time record. People are saying people aren't driving as much anymore. It's untrue. We're still driving more. Vehicle miles traveled hit an all-time high in 2014. But yet traffic fatalities continue to decline. Why is that? Safer cars. Much safer. And so the all-time high on traffic fatalities was back about the year I bought my Pinto in 1972. In that year it was over 50,000, about 51 or 52,000. And now it's down to, 2010 was down to 32,000. It keeps dropping each year. I saw a report that 2015 is up a little bit, but it's a little bit of a fluke. There's a changing culture where, by the way, everybody remember that car? The AMC Gremlin? That was about a 1972 Model 2. Here's the age of the fleet, the chart on the age of the fleet, the oldest on record. Finance terms. By the way, back in, let's say even in the 80s or 90s, you go into a new car dealership, you negotiate the price of the car, decide what you're going to buy, and then they say, can I finance that for you? Well, yes, you can. Well, do you want 24 or 36 months? Those were the options. Today, the average terms on new car finance, if you're buying the car, not leasing it, the average terms on new car finance are closer to 6 years than they are to 5. And I mean, it works because of the quality of the car. You keep them a lot longer, you can finance it longer.
But does that hurt new sales?
What?
Does that hurt new sales?
It does. And we're a lot better off if you lease it and put it on a 3-year lease and come back in and get a new one. By the way, there's going to be a lot more new equipment on that new car when you come back. The technology in the next one might drive itself. This article by Chris Woodyard, reporter with the USA Today, Buyers stretch out their loans as the prices rise. Okay? The lower fuel prices. By the way, I was in Missouri over the weekend. Saw gasoline at $1.58 a gallon. One of my first jobs back in 1972 was pumping gas at a gas station. And I remember the normal price at the pump was $19.9. But if we got into a price war, you go down to $17.9. I can remember selling it as low as 12 cents a gallon, 12 cents. Here's a J.D. Power study on quality of new car product. And according to J.D. Power, and by the way, Jay Farron also worked for J.D. Power. He was everywhere. He's an amazing individual. You can tell him his name keeps coming up in Colorado. So the J.D. Power study shows that the average improvement year in and year out is about 5%. So that means in the overall fleet of cars that are sold. So if you've been out of the new car market for 5 years, you can have a reasonable expectation by accumulation that your next new car will be 25% better on quality than your last new car. And we're under a federal mandate on fuel economy. It's going to be a tough standard to meet to get to 54.5 miles per gallon. The average fuel economy today is just in the upper 20s. So we've got to hit that by 2025. That's an Obama administration rule. Somebody asked about emissions. And I said, we'd talk about emissions. This chart is people are driving more but with less pollution. The other aspect of the new car today, and this is across the board, whether it's gasoline, diesel, hybrid, CNG, compressed natural gas, or any other power source, the new cars today are virtually emission-free when it comes to particle emissions. There's two types of tailpipe emissions. One is the carbon emissions, that's the climate change or global warming emissions. Those are clear emissions. The other are the particle emissions. The particle emissions are the brown cloud inducing, asthma contributing, and ozone enhancing emissions. And on new cars today, they're virtually emission-free. It's amazing. Malcolm Gladwell in his book, in one of his recent books, cited in Denver, Colorado, he cited a 2004 Subaru is 99% cleaner. He called it 200 times cleaner than an older Subaru. And the best way to get to better air quality as it relates to motor vehicles is to turn the fleet. So this is carbon monoxide decreases in Colorado. According to the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, the ambient emissions is basically zero on carbon monoxide on the new cars. We're going to come back to what we're doing on to turn that fleet.